today we're making this delicious strawberry cake with strawberry filling. And that strawberry filling is essential because it's used in both the frosting, in the cake layers, and to obviously fill the cake, so we make it first. We start by adding about 6 cups of whole strawberries. These can be fresh or frozen and thawed into a blender with 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, and we're going to blend that until the mixture is nice and smooth. And then we take the mixture and pour it into a medium-sized saucepan. And we heat the mixture over a medium-high heat, stirring occasionally until the mixture begins to boil. And it's not going to be like a full-on rolling boil, but once you see bubbles like this, you can reduce the heat to medium-low and let the mixture cook down for 50 to 60 minutes. Now, I know this is a long time, but we need this to reduce in volume to end up being about 3 cups before we can add in our cornstarch slurry. And once that time comes, you're going to mix together 1/4 cup of water and 1/4 cup of cornstarch. You're going to mix it until it's fully combined and then pour it into the strawberry mixture. And the mixture should visibly thicken as the cornstarch cooks down and look something like this. And don't worry if it seems a little bit thin, I promise it will continue to thicken as it reaches room temperature. Then we remove the mixture from heat and add in the zest of a large lemon, the juice of half of that lemon, and a pinch of fine salt. And once we stir all that together, we're going to pour this into a separate bowl and set it aside to cool to room temperature. This filling takes pretty much an hour to cook and an hour to cool, so if you're short on time and can't do everything at once, this can be made in advance and stored in the fridge for up to a week or the freezer for up to a month. And while that cools, we work on the strawberry cake layers. First, we combine the dry ingredients, which includes 3 cups of flour, 2.5 cups of granulated sugar, an optional 1/4 cup of freeze-dried strawberry powder, 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of fine salt. Next, we mix in 1 cup or 2 sticks of unsalted room temperature butter. For some reason, I put the whisk attachment on here. Usually I use the paddle attachment for the whole thing, but either will work. And of course, you can also use a hand mixer for this. Then we mix in 1 cup of room temperature egg whites. I use the kind that come in a carton, but you can also use 7 fresh large egg whites or 4 whole large eggs. And the batter will be pretty thick at this point. And next we mix in 1.5 cups of room temperature sour cream, 1/2 cup of our strawberry reduction, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I also like to mix in just a little bit of pink gel food coloring to give these a really nice, beautiful pink color. And when I added my strawberry reduction, I was impatient and didn't wait for it to fully cool, so it probably looks thinner than it will when you make this, but the cake layers really do bake up best when it's at room temperature. After dividing the batter evenly between 3 8-inch cake layers, we're adding about 600 grams of batter to each pan. I'm going to bake these in a preheated 350-degree oven for about 33 to 36 minutes. And then while those bake, we work on the strawberry cream cheese frosting. And the first step is to combine 1.5 cups or 3 sticks of unsalted butter with 1 cup of room temperature cream cheese. Then we add 1/4 cup of room temperature strawberry reduction, 3 tablespoons of freeze-dried strawberry powder, which is optional, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/2 teaspoon of fine salt. We mix this on a medium-low speed until combined. You can also add a little bit of pink gel food coloring to this if you want, and I highly recommend scraping the bottom of the bowl because sometimes the cream cheese and the butter can get kind of stuck down there. And then with the mixer still on low, you're going to gradually add in 6 cups of powdered sugar. I know this sounds like a lot, but you really do actually need that much to give the frosting the right consistency. Otherwise, it's going to be super thin. I like to cover the frosting with plastic wrap just so it doesn't crust. And once the cake layers are fully cooled, you can pop them out of your cake pans and level them with a serrated knife. Now, the cake layers do bake up pretty flat, but I always like leveling them. It just helps make the stacking process a little bit easier. And to be perfectly honest, I love snacking on the cake tops as I assemble the cake. Okay, so if you've made it this far, you've done all the hard work, and now is the real fun where we get to assemble the cake. I always use a dab of frosting to help keep that bottom cake layer in place. Then we're adding about 1 cup of our frosting on top of the cake layer, spreading it. And I forgot to share earlier, but I put about 1.5 cups of frosting into a large piping bag. You also could use a freezer Ziploc bag so that you can pipe a ring around the edge of the cake to keep that strawberry filling in place. Now we repeat this process with a second cake layer, and again, because we're making a 3-layer cake with 2 layers of filling, you're using half of the remaining filling on that first layer and then the rest of it on the second. And if your cake layers seem unsteady or your filling is starting to seep out, you can always pop the cake in the freezer at any point to help lock those rings of frosting in place. I usually just wait until that top cake layer is on, then I chill it in the freezer for about 15 minutes or the fridge for 30, and this makes the frosting process so much easier. And to keep things simple, we don't actually do a crumb coat on this cake. We just use the rest of the frosting to cover it in a thick layer, and then I like to add a textured look using the back of a large offset spatula. But you could also use a butter knife or the back of a spoon. And then I just decorated the top of the cake with some fresh strawberries, and everything together really is so incredibly delicious. The cake layers are so soft and tender, the filling has the perfect consistency, and the cream cheese strawberry frosting just really ties it all together.